So that Jesus was indeed highly spiritual, a normal person. Christ, on the other hand, the person who preached and performed all the miracles, came from the planet Thiaoouba, who took on the body of Jesus, made by the Theobans to resemble the appearance of Jesus. They sent Jesus and Christ to us this way just to really show us that we should refocus ourselves in the spiritual development. My name is Samuel Chong, and this is your superior self.
Samuel, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me here.
I have to tell you something, man. You reached out to me about this book that you've been promoting. Uh, I have to tell you, you have a hard story to sell, not because it's it's fascinating, but because of people's belief systems and thoughts of and theories of reality. Like, talk about this book that you've been talking about and sharing with the masses, uh, and how it's different than most stories that you heard. I'm just really curious to you're a very objective guy, I feel like. Um, what caught your eye about this story and what bought your support?
Well, the name of the book is Thiaoouba Prophecy, and it reads like a science fiction because it talks about the author's personal experiences of being taken away by an extraterrestrial to their planet with an advanced civilization, and then came back after 9 days. What strikes me the most is that it tells a lot of the uh, solutions and answers and to the mysteries and paranormal events on Earth, such as the Great Pyramid of Egypt, what happens in the Bermuda Triangle, what are really the true dangers on Earth. Number one being money, number two, politicians, number three, journalists and drugs, number four, religions. And also it has specific verifiable facts that really made me believe that this is for real. And the ETs really have been helping us throughout history, as documented in the ancient scriptures in the Bible, and also during even nowadays, like in the recent times during World War II. So I think what really interesting is that the books talks about the answers that are really logical and can be verified, and this is something that convinced me to be real and to be the truth of the author's personal experiences.
Mm. So let's give everyone some context about your background. Like, where are you from and what is it that you do?
Well, I was born in Beijing, China, about 45 years ago, and I came to the US at the age of 15. I went to high school and college, UC Berkeley. I also studied abroad at the London School of Economics and Political Science. I also took a year and got my master's degree from a university in Spain. So I also speak Spanish. And now I work as a certified court interpreter in Los Angeles, California. And also have a JD degree right now, Juris Doctor's degree. So I consider myself to be logical and also have foundations and grounded, well grounded, and but this book is different.
Well, what started you down that path of like exploration, like curiosity? Like, what was it that I feel like you've read a lot of material in your life, right? Just from hearing your background and some of obviously you've studied some of the literature and science. Um, you, what was it about, I guess, your path that took you down this journey, right?
Well, I was always interested in the paranormal, like what are ghosts and why do we live on this earth, and what's the purpose of life, and what really happens in the Bermuda Triangle. And I was thinking if the ETs can come and visit us, they must have advanced knowledge and advanced technologies, and we can just learn from them and cut the corners and get the shortcut and to really progress at a much faster pace. So in my subconscious mind, I was always looking for information and messages from ET contactees, hoping to find a way to really learn about the mysteries on Earth. And also during my college years, I was interested in earning a lot of money. First, I wanted to become a doctor because at that time doctors earn a lot of money. And then later on, I found out that I could earn more money by becoming a very good investor. So I learned all the techniques of Warren Buffett, Jim Rogers, George Soros, and all the investment fund managers and great investors and hoping to imitate their methods of investing in the stock and commodities market. So I was kind of trying to do that, but but then I found that the world doesn't work that way, and especially after the internet bubble crash, and I thought that there was something more into that, especially after 9/11 happened. I think we need to dig deeper and to find what really happens in the world.
100%. I feel like the Thiaoouba prophecy isn't a typical book that you read. What, like when you were reading it, what jumped out at you? What piece of evidence, right? Verifiable evidence did you find that really confirmed this story for you?
Well, you are right that I had read a lot of books by the time I read Thiaoouba Prophecy, a lot of books written by ET contactees. What really makes Thiaoouba Prophecy different is that it talks about the tomb of Jesus in Shingo Village, Japan, that very few people knew about at that time. The book was written in 1991, years before the age of the internet. And the author was an Australian landscaper, a farmer in Australia, who didn't have a lot of education, who didn't know how to use mobile phones or computer at that time, and who didn't really know about the existence of internet. And he never traveled to Japan, and there's just no way for him to know about the tomb of Jesus in Shingo Village, Japan, with precise descriptions about the tomb and also the tomb next to it, which is supposedly the tomb of the brother of Jesus. And a lot of people say that Jesus went to India, and I was very curious why people say that. And this book, The Thiaoouba Prophecy, describes the birth of Jesus, the stories in the Bible, and how Jesus went to India and died in Japan, and how Christ became this kind of omnipotent being and performing all the miracles and to preach love and spirituality, and how he died on the cross and resurrected 3 days after. So in this book, it talks about Jesus and Christ being two different beings or entities. And this makes perfect sense to me because it explains why there's a missing years of Jesus in the Bible from the age of 15 to the age of 30. Like there was no record of him going anywhere. And why Christ, after he came back, I mean, after he like was able to, after he began preaching, he was able to perform all the miracles. And there was no record of Jesus like before the age of 15 performing any miracles. It also explains why Christ, after he began preaching, called his mother woman instead of mother. Because I'm a linguist, I know that mother in all languages in the world has a very specific kind of connotation, and just there's no way uh, for like any language in the world to call like someone's mother like a woman because of the special relationship between the mother and the son.
So why did he call her a woman?
Because he just wanted to show that he is not really the son of Virgin Mary. He is someone else.
Hmm. He's the son of God.
Yes, in a sense, he is someone special, like made by God or Jehovah.
Wow. So did you actually like follow the life of Christ? And how did you find like evidence of this, right? Like of his travels?
Well, I did a lot of research after reading the book because to me, it really answered all the questions I had about the Bible. After coming to the US, I was very interested in different religions, and I went to a Christian church. And I read the Bible, but there's just something that didn't really make a lot of sense. The preachers preached about the messages in the New Testaments, but some of the preachers, the pastors, they did things differently from the preachings of the Bible. And also, there are some kind of inconsistencies in the Bible that I was questioning about, and they always um, make light of it and didn't really respond to my questions. I had to seek for the answers on my own. And this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, explains that the the preachings of the preachings of Christ are the teachings that we need to follow, not the Catholic Church, not the organized religions, because throughout the years, especially like after the Council of Nicaea and also the three other council meetings, the Catholic Church intentionally distorted the original meanings of the ancient scriptures and the preachings, the teachings of Christ. And the book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, is so specific. It named the four Catholic Church Council meetings that intentionally distorted the meanings of the original scriptures. So this is something that strikes me the most. The book contains a lot of specific information that people can look it up.
So the four meetings within the Catholic Church that
Yes, four
distorted
council meetings.
four
Yeah.
council meetings that basically misinformed, um, I guess, the congregation of the Catholic Church, or their, I guess, their indoctrination. What is it? I mean, it's the indoctrination of their teachings, essentially, right? Or is it just, I mean,
Yes.
what were they trying to cover up?
Reincarnation and also the real intention and meanings of the resurrection of Christ. The reason that Christ resurrected was to show people at that time that there's life after death and there's reincarnation. But for some reason, the concept of reincarnation was later removed by the Catholic Church meetings or council meetings. And there's a lot of scientific proof about reincarnation. Like if you read the works of Dr. Ian Stevenson and Dr. Brian Weiss and Dr. Michael Newton, you're going to see a lot of scientific evidence about reincarnation. It's just that religion, the Christian religion, doesn't buy it
Why do you think they took that out?
because they can control people better. I mean, if you can be saved by the Catholic Church, then they can really do anything they want with you. You can just blindly follow their doctrines and something like you can pay them and to wash your sins away, something like that. I mean, it's all about control. And
Hmm. So do you personally believe in reincarnation?
I do. I mean, since I was young, I always believed that there's life after death, and but after I went to the church, I was kind of brainwashed, and I during a certain period of time, I didn't believe in reincarnation. I thought I could be saved, but just by following the teachings of the church, and I was wrong. And I think people need to look deeper. And there are a lot of scientists that now believe in reincarnation, and they wrote books about the evidence of reincarnation.
What do you think that does for people when they hear or learn or know about reincarnation? Like, what does that do for them personally or spiritually?
I think they're going to become more spiritual and knowing that there's a purpose of life. I mean, this life is which is to learn and to respond to the challenges of the different lessons and to learn from the different lessons and to improve one's spirituality so that um, after learning all the different lessons in this lifetime, we can accumulate the experiences and to improve ourselves in the next lifetime. So this is like a constant improvement through different reincarnations and different past lives. It's not just like what the church says after you believe in in Christ, that your sins are going to be washed away and you're going to go to heaven. I always ask them like, what about Hitler? If he like believed in Christ, right before he dies, will he go to heaven? It really doesn't work that way. It's a gradual process. You just cannot be a kind of evil person one day and then you believe in Christ or the church and then you're going to heaven the next day when you die. It just doesn't work that way. It's a gradual process. You have to be refined and really to be really spiritual in order to be reunited with the God or the Creator.
Hmm. So the author of this book, Michelle D, what is it,
Demarcate.
D Marquet, like
Mhm.
why so much buy-in on his book, right? Like you went over and met the man and got to know him. Why this sudden inspiration to go on this journey?
Yeah, this book has a lot of very interesting information about some of the paranormals on Earth, and a lot of facts can be proven by science, like the antibacterial, antiviral effects of blue light, and also so a lot of the like who built the Great Pyramid, for what purposes, actually an energy center, and and also, but in the postscript of the book, it says there are more incredible things that the author Michel de Marquet was not allowed to write about because we were far from understanding them. I was kind of disappointed because he didn't write everything he knew, and I was determined to find out what else he knew but didn't write in the book or wasn't allowed to write in the book. So I found out that he was still alive at that time. I was very happy that he was still alive. The most devastating news at that time was that he passed away, but fortunately he was in Vietnam at that time. So I flew over there and met him, and here I am.
What was he like when you met him?
He was a very typical French person, a very cynical about what's happening around the world, what was happening around the world. And he was kind of like very interesting in the sense that he um, kind of wanted me to read the book over and over again because I was trying to ask him a lot of questions. And he was annoyed at my visit in the very beginning because he was a very private person. He didn't want to be bothered because of the book. He was living in a very remote city in Vietnam, in southern Vietnam, and just a very typical blue collar person and a farmer and kind of uneducated. But he was kind of had a very um, alert mind, like fast mind, um, even though he wasn't really into technology, and but he was a very interesting person.
Sure. So when he was abducted, did he get all of this information like during that period? Like, I mean, how long? What was it? 9 days? Is that what you said?
Yes, nowadays.
So nine
Um,
days he's abducted, taken upon this craft, and where did they take it?
yeah, they took him to the planet Thiaoouba, which is kind of far away from us, but the ETs had or have advanced technologies to go to travel at a speed faster than the speed of light. They also use the teleportation to travel from one place to another without the loss of time. So it's like folding space and time. Um, so he got all the information just from the 9 days period of time. And it's really revealing and it also talks about a lot of the things about human nature. Like we not only have a physical body, we also have our astral body, which is connected to our higher self. So in dreams and during meditation, when or we can connect to our higher self to know the greater purpose and to 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 receive guidance.
Did he teach you that, or did you read that in the book?
I read that in the book. Everything's written in the book. The
Wow.
book is very dense. It has a lot of information.
Sure. I'm surprised that you remember all this stuff from the book. It seems like you've studied this like quite a bit.
Yes, yes. This book is very interesting.
Would you say it's your Bible?
I would say it's more than the Bible. Actually, I went to two psychics before I read this book. They all say that I'll be doing something related to a book of significance. At that time, I didn't really believe what the psychics were saying about this because even the Bible was not that significant to me because, the Bible, a lot of the verses in the Bible didn't really make a lot of sense to me. The teachings of Christ did, but not the other verses in the Bible. Um, so yeah, I think this is the book that I'm probably going to be promoting in the future.
Did he ever describe the planet that he went to?
Yes, yes. The planet is like a paradise to him. It's called the Golden Planet, according to him, because as he approached that planet, he saw like a golden mist covering the planet. It's very beautiful and really refreshing. He felt extremely relaxed while on the planet. And the people there were really nice and loving people. And they were compassionate. And he felt at ease and very safe and secure. And after a few days, he didn't really want to come back. And they brought him back without telling him um, that they were coming back because they didn't want him to know that he was coming back and feel sad. It's like a true paradise, like a heaven-like place. Everything was so bright and the colors are really bright. Uh, um, and he actually had to wear facial masks like sunglasses to filter out the light, strong colors. Otherwise, he'll be drunken by the colors. This is how he described that planet. And the trees and the plants and the animals are really somewhat similar to Earth, but really unique in a different way. And people communicate through telepathy, like through the mind. They didn't really need to speak in voices. They could just communicate using their mind power. And people there can perform a lot of like miracles like Christ did. They can levitate, um, real levitation, not magic or by our magicians. They can materialize objects or manifest objects, and they can really heal all kinds of diseases. Um, and they can really like just like think about Christ, what Christ did on earth, and they can do everything Christ did.
Kind of reminds me of Superman, right? That story of Superman where they
Yes.
they had a totally different planet than ours and they came here and they were able to be superhuman. And then I guess they're so does that make them normal there? Like, or you go there and everybody can do the same things? Like it's just kind of normal that they can float and manifest and maybe that's why they come to Earth because it's like it's so dense here and everyone's kind of like I don't know, maybe a superhero, right? Like doing magnificent things. Did he say why they come here?
Uh, you mean Christ? Why Christ came here, or
Well, why the
the
beings came
Cubans
here?
came here?
Yeah.
Okay, so they came here just to warn us by sending Michel de Marquet here, like here back here to write a book. It's very similar to the Book of Enoch, or maybe the Bible, or maybe this book. Is that we are at a very critical moment of time in the history. So we have to make the right decision. Otherwise, catastrophes are going to be coming. Like it's going to be devastation, or maybe a lot of bad things are going to happen. So they brought Michel de Marquet to their planet and to show him the real purpose of life and what's really important in life, so that people on Earth can learn about it after reading his book and to make the right choices in the future. Because technology is bringing a lot of people into um, into something that can make us more materialistic. So we should focus on uh, more about our spiritual development, not on the materialistic aspect of our life.
Hmm. Did they ever say anything about AI?
I mean, this book was written before the age of AI, before the age of the internet, and definitely, I think it has a lot of implications or applications to what's happening nowadays. I definitely believe that AI is doing a lot of things um, damaging to our future, unless we know how to make AI or like a tool to improve our spirituality.
Mhm. D- So, do you think they're extraterrestrial or do you think it's interdimensional beings?
I think they're extraterrestrials. The book talks about the 9 different levels or categories of planets. Earth is a category 1 planet, the lowest level in the universe. And their planet, Thiaoouba, is the highest category of planet. And they are just like college professors, and we are just like elementary school students learning the basics. And they are showing us the the right path and what we need, or maybe giving us guidance, just like our mentors. But we also have our free will. It's up to us whether to take their advice or guidance or not. So they are just like Christ spreading the seeds. Some seeds will grow and some will not. And they do respect our free will.
Hmm. Did he ever describe what the craft was like inside?
Yes, it's a kind of like a spherical craft, about 100 meters in diameter. And once inside, he can see the control room. And there are also other rooms for taking a break and also for storage. And it's very and the craft can travel at a speed a few times faster than the speed of light. And when it travels, it has to use antimatter guns to destroy the space dusts or small asteroids. Otherwise, at such fast speed, it would or they would destroy the craft. So it's more like when people read the book, they're gonna think this is like a science fiction, but there's more into it. Like antimatter guns, it's very logical when you travel at such a speed, you have to do something about the space dusts or small asteroids. And here you are. It talks about that, and also it talks about them visiting other planets and taking samples of the soil and also helping inhabitants of other planets and also where we all came from, like the Caucasians came from a different planet. The yellows, like the Chinese, Japanese, and Mongolians, they come from a different planet. The blacks, Africans, and they came from a different planet. And the Jewish people, the Hebrews, came from a different planet. So it explains the origins of all the different people. It also talks about ancient civilizations such as Atlantis, Lemuria, which sunk into the ocean about 14,500 years ago. And so it connects all the dots, all the mysteries and the paranormals.
Lemuria, I think that's on the West Coast, right? Or West Pacific.
Yes,
And then
Pacific Ocean.
Atlantis. I'm assuming Atlantis is in the Atlantic, right?
Yes, that's right.
Did they ever talk about like what happened to their civilizations, why they self-destructed?
Well, it didn't really go into details about Atlantis, but it talks about Lemuria. And people can go to Easter Island and see the moas, the statues. And actually, Easter Island was part of the continent of Lemuria. And Lemuria was actually a continent that sank into the ocean about 500 years ago because of an earthquake, because of the gaseous um, belt beneath the continent. And there's actually archaeological and geological proof about that. There are gaseous belts in the Pacific Ocean, beneath the ocean. And the inhabitants of Lemuria came from a different planet called Arimo X3 about 250,000 years ago. They had advanced technologies and advanced civilization, But because of overpopulation on their planet, they were seeking to migrate some of their people to Earth. And they encountered the Chinese people who were living on the continent of Lemuria in the northwestern corner of that continent. And the Chinese people were really suspicious, and they are still very suspicious because, I'm Chinese, so I can testify that, and Chinese people by their nature, they are really suspicious people. So they had a fight with the people from Arima X3, and being a highly spiritual people, and not wanting to fight against the Chinese, they retreated back to the backside of the far side of the moon, and built a ET station as a transfer station to migrate their people step by step. So this is why some people say there are ET bases on the backside or far side of the moon. Yes, there are. They were used to transfer the people from Arima X3 to Earth. So they built a very advanced civilization on Earth, and they had anti-gravitational technologies, and they built a Great Pyramid on that continent that's 3 times as large as the Great Pyramid of Egypt, using supersonic vibratory systems to cut the huge stones in a very precise manner, and also using anti-gravitational technologies to move the huge stones so that they don't need a lot of labor because they have the knowledge. So this is what happened. And because of the earthquake, the continent sunk, and the technologies didn't really pass on to other continents like Asia or South America, but they passed some of their technology to Atlantis, people in Atlantis. And there's a great person called Thoth in Atlantis who took the knowledge to Egypt and built the pyramid of Egypt using that knowledge. So this is why, this is how the pyramid was built in Egypt in a 9-year period of time. And the ancient pharaohs actually knew how to use the pyramid to communicate with people on other planets, because they used the as a tool to concentrate terrestrial and cosmic energy in a way to, and also to project the energy into the sky.
Do you think the governments of today can communicate with that civilization?
I don't think they were going intentionally to communicate with the government leaders, because if you look at the great revolutions or great movements, they always come from bottom up. So it's never top down. So they believe that the power of the people will change the world for the better, not the politicians, because the politicians, their interest is to get reelected. I mean, most politicians, they don't really look after the interests of the people, certainly not the blue collar people, the mass. They always worry about the interests of elites. So they believe, the Thiaoubans believe that by having enough knowledge, by really giving the messages to the mass, to the people, and then the people can really unite. And then through collective consciousness or through collective actions, they can change the society or the government for the better.
Wow, there's so many questions I have for you. Like you said earlier, it's just so many questions within an hour. Christ, you said there was 2 of them, right?
Yeah. Jesus and Christ are 2 entities.
So can you explain that?
Yes. Virgin Mary was indeed a virgin, and she indeed had a son named Jesus. And Jesus was actually born from an embryo implanted by the ETs or the Giovans into her uterus. And indeed, they appeared in front of them, and just to tell them what was going to happen, because they were able to do that because they had a lot of psychic powers. They did that just to fulfill the prophecies and just to make people believe that someone extraordinary was going to be born that way. That Jesus, born out of the Virgin Mary, was indeed a person of high spirituality, and he was able to communicate and talk to the teachers of the temple, and he had a lot of knowledge and wisdom, but he couldn't perform miracles because when a person is born that way, the astral body has to go through what they would call the river of oblivion, forgetting all the knowledge that he learned in his past lives, forgetting all the things that he would need to perform miracles. So Jesus was never able to perform miracles, the one that was born out of Virgin Mary. He went to India. So this is why some people say that Jesus went to India. Yes, he did go to India and traveled to China and died in Japan. So there's the tomb of Jesus in Shingo village, Shingo village, Japan. And people can search on the internet. There's credible evidence and stories about the discoveries of that village and how the people in the village sing a song that sounded like ancient Hebrew language, and how that how the people in the village have different customs from nearby villages, very unique from the traditional Japanese culture. And there's a tomb next to the tomb of Jesus. So that Jesus was indeed highly spiritual, a normal person. Christ, on the other hand, the person who preached and performed all the miracles, came from the planet Thiaoouba, who took on the body of Jesus, made by the Thiaoubans to resemble the appearance of Jesus, and just to be able to perform all the miracles. Because as you know, people in the past, as well as people nowadays, they're highly skeptical. They don't believe anything unless miracles are shown. So people in the past were like that way. They sent Jesus and Christ to us this way just to really show us that we should refocus ourselves in the spiritual development, spirituality. They chose the Hebrews because they really wanted to help the Hebrews in a way, and to really escape from the evil regimes or rules of the Romans. They also helped Moses as well, just to like add a few background information. When Moses led the Hebrews out of Egypt, and there was the descriptions of Exodus and the parting of the sea. Yes, the sea really was parted by the Thiaoubans, because to them it's very easy to do that using a force field. And the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea, but the Sea of Reeds was a very shallow sea. So Moses actually led the ancient Hebrews out of Egypt, and to Mount Sinai. I mean, this is the story that everyone knows. So I would suggest people to read the book Thiaoouba Prophecy to know more details.
Mhm.
But back to Christ. The reason Christ came to the Hebrews was that similar to like years ago, thousands of years ago, I mean, when Moses was trying to help the Hebrews. By the way, Moses, if people look it up, it's actually an Egyptian name, and Moses was actually born from Egyptian parents. And they were actually enslaved by the evil rules of the Egyptians. And they chose the Hebrews because the Hebrews at that time were kind of following the teachings, I mean, following their own spiritual practices. And at that time, they believed that the Hebrews were very spiritual, but they were under a bad influence of the Egyptians. And 2,000 years ago, similar things happened. the Hebrews were kind of originally very spiritual people, but they were under the evil rules of the Romans. So they decided to choose the Hebrew people and to kind of make Christ to teach the people at that time the importance of spirituality. So this is my interpretation of what happened, and this is also written in the book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, and maybe people, if they're interested, can read about it.
Hmm. Well, there's just so many different cultures in there. The ancient Romans, the Egyptians, and then the ancient Hebrews, all serving and worshiping different gods. Does this book ever point towards the truth and what there actually is? There a monotheistic God? Is there demigods? Are there multiple gods? Like, did they speak to that?
Yes, this is the gist. This is a really important message in the book, is that there is a creator, what we would call God, that created everything, the planets, the stars, Earth, including Earth, and also plants and animals and human beings. So the creator created everything. It's just like the Big Bang theory, but there's more into that. So when the creator created human beings, us, it inserted a tiny portion of itself to each one of our astral bodies, or a higher self or astral bodies. So uh, for what purpose? The purpose to experience what we experience, because as a pure spirit, it would need a physical body to experience the sensations of life, the happiness, the sorrows, and also the challenges. And when we pray to the creator of God, we should look inside and also to really connect to our higher self, which is part of God, the creator. We should not look into like idols or maybe kind of other things to worship. We definitely should not follow the religious leaders, because frequently they misinterpret the teachings of Christ. When we have challenges in life, we should look inside for answers, because when we do pray and connect to our inner self, our higher self, frequently the answers will be presented to us, and they will help us to really overcome difficulties or challenges, financial relationship wise, the challenges in life. So the ways to do that, there are three ways. One is to pray, but pray inside and connect to your higher self. One is to meditate. You can meditate and connect to your higher self. And the other way is to have a good night of sleep, because in dreams, you can connect with your higher self as well. So this is the way to go. And people really should not worship anything, should not worship people or money or materialistic objects. And this is why, like, in even in Buddhism, for a few hundred years after Buddha died, there is actually no um, kind of feature, or maybe like no appearance of the Buddha or idol or worship of Buddha, because Buddha really taught people not to worship him, but to look inside for answers.
Do you think that's what the Thiaoubans were talking about? Like, is that what their message is for us?
Yes, they're talking about like not to follow a specific religion, but really to look inside for answers, just like what Christ really taught us. And but it also talks about in the future, as technology becomes more developed, there are going to be people are going to be more materialistic, and we should be aware of it. We should really focus on the spiritual development of ourselves. And but there's also a political structure. The book talks great at length about politics or political structures. It talks about there's a small group of financiers controlling everything, including the politicians. It talks about everything is revolved around the money, and including the big corporations, the big pharma, the big energy companies, and there are ways to develop clean energies that are suppressed, and there are ways to cure different diseases that are not made public. It also talks about how the people, the commoners, the blue collar people, and also the mass can overcome this, which is just to unite and using nonviolent resistance to rise up against tyranny, similar to the teachings or teachings of Gandhi in India, and similar to the preachings of Martin Luther King. Nonviolence is the key. And once people have the knowledge, and people can act together and have an inertia, a movement, and have a strike, so that the politicians or the financiers have to cater to our needs. Because when you think about this, I am not rich. If I have a strike with other people, like you and me and other people, your listeners or audience, we are going to lose very little because we have little to lose. But the financiers, the big corporations, they're going to lose huge because they rely and depend on our slave laborers to profit themselves. So if we get together and to really have a strike using nonviolent means, sooner or later they're just going to listen to our demands, and that's the way to turn the world to a better world.
Hmm. What does the better world look like, right? Like what does the ideal Earth look like? What did they ever paint a picture of what our future potential could be?
Yes, it's similar to what Lemuria was like thousands of years ago, or tens of thousands of years ago. And in Lemuria, people didn't really have money, and people were just taking things they needed. They were producing a lot of things in a natural way, and no one took advantage of each other because people were highly spiritual, and they just were compassionate and loving people, and they had the technology and the ways to cure and treat all the different diseases, and they didn't need to use gasoline or petrochemicals to make energy to because they used clean energy, anti-gravitational technologies, and it's a very kind of like a utopian world, and we can be like that if we act together as a book suggested.
That's amazing. I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of truth in that. And we're very materialistic and going within, and meditating and praying to the God within is a great advice for someone who is just starting out on that spiritual path because it instead of giving your power away, you're taking it back, right? And focusing in on that inner self. Did they ever teach you how to like self-heal and what that looks like?
Uh, Sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you say that one more time?
Do they ever talk about self-healing
Oh,
or
something. Okay.
like how to
Yes,
heal
yes,
the body?
that's right. Yeah, they did. They actually talked about health and in general. Um, we have our physical body. We also have our astral body. We also have auras, the human energy fields. And they suggest people to look into the human energy fields to cure and heal different diseases because the human energy fields kind of can predict what kind of diseases or symptoms people are going to have. In fact, I know a few aura readers and who wrote very good books, like Barbara Brennan, who wrote a book, Hands of Light, and Judith Collins wrote a book, How to Read Aura. And I think if people read the book, they're going to be enlightened how the human energy fields can heal people. Because when the energy fields are kind of malfunctioning or get distorted, later on, like 3 or 6 months later, the physical symptoms are going to manifest. In fact, Barbara Brennan had a like interesting story. She once saw like a grayish color in the liver area of her friend. And then 3 or 6 months later, her friend was diagnosed of liver cancer. So if people can really heal the energy field and make the colors appear to be normal, then they can prevent a lot of different diseases. And people who can see auras and people who can see the energy fields, they all say that they all agree on that. So I think if people can really heal the auras and energy fields, they can really prevent and treat and heal and cure a lot of different diseases. And also for the other diseases, and I think people can read the book and find out other ways to cure and treat. Um, and I think I would strongly suggest people to get a book, whether you borrow it from the library or buy it on Amazon or get a copy on the internet. I mean, this book is going to give you a lot of knowledge that are going to be helpful to you, whether for your health or financial life or spiritual life. And actually, reading this book is the greatest investment I ever made in my entire life. And remember, I read a lot of books about Warren Buffett. I read a lot of books written by Jim Rogers and written by George Soros. And also, I read a lot of books about investment. But so far, I really think that this book is the best investment I ever made in my entire life, better than all the investment books I've ever read.
Oh, wow. Now, I'm trying to go back to the Christ or Jesus Christ. One, was his real name Jesus, do you think, or Yeshua?
Well, his real man, if we are talking about Jesus, the one that's born out of Virgin Mary, that's Jesus, that's his real name, or Joshua. If you're talking about Christ, his real name is Ariok, but he, took on a body of that resembled Jesus, and so he took the name Jesus as well.
So Jesus, who was born of Mary, was here and alive on this planet as a regular guy until age 15, and then travels the world and ends up in Japan.
Yes, that's right, and he died in Japan.
And he died in Japan. And then the
Yes,
second Christ, the Christ, came from a different planet,
yes,
and had special abilities and took on that persona of
yeah,
Jesus.
yes,
Wow.
and then he resurrected after 3 days. And just to show people that there's life after death and there's no need to be afraid of death because we reincarnate.
Do you think the first Jesus knew about the second?
No, I don't think he knew about the second.
Really? Could you imagine? Do you think there's a second Samuel out there walking around? Like,
Yeah.
that's just that's so fascinating to me. So he's buried in Japan next to his brother.
Right.
So where does Mary Magdalene come into this?
Well, Mary was a virgin. I mean,
No,
he
Mary
really
Magdalene. Like Mary
thank you.
Magdalene. Do you know Mary Magdalene? She was supposed to be, well, I think she was Jesus's wife, right?
I I have no idea if she is the wife of Jesus, the first Jesus born out of Virgin Mary. I I don't think he would be the wife of the of Christ. I have no idea because I just don't know about it.
Do you think the 12 disciples knew?
I think the 12 disciples probably, yeah, I believe they knew. Um, but a lot of things were distorted and because people just couldn't make out of like a rational explanation why Jesus like was like a regular person and suddenly Christ came, just looked exactly like Jesus and was suddenly able to perform all the miracles and preached all the things that were really helpful to the people and then resurrected. And people couldn't make a reasonable or a logical explanation out of it. So that's the missing part in the Bible that this book, the Thiaoouba prophecy, explains very logically.
So do you think Jesus, the Christ, was teaching reincarnation, or do you think he was teaching what we are capable of becoming?
Well, three things. One is about what we are capable of becoming, and second is about love. Actually, the most important thing is about love, universal love. And the third thing is about reincarnation. So I think those are the three most important things that Christ was teaching us.
Do you think we have the capabilities to or capacity to become Christ?
We some people do, but not all people, because it needs a lot of practice. It needs to go through different reincarnations to be able to have enough um, psychic powers. And I have a theory or hypothesis about how one can accumulate more psychic powers and to develop this kind of supernatural abilities. And but I think if we have to fit in the time for about 1 hour, we are not going
Come
to have
on,
time.
Samuel. Come on, man.
Okay.
Don't leave me hanging. Give me a shortcut here. Give me like
Okay. I'll just be really, really, really kind of brief. So once a person's psychic abilities depends on the electrons, the number or the number of electrons in the astral body. Because like some people are born that way to have more psychic powers because they have more like electrons in their astral body. So they're easily able to have supernatural powers. But others, the people who use drugs in their past lives, um, the electrons are damaged by the illegal drugs like hallucinogenic drugs or maybe different noises. It's all written in the book. So this is why I think reading the book is very important. So they're not going to be able to have enough psychic power to be able to do the things that Christ did. And so this is but some people, like, I don't know if you know about the secret societies such as the Illuminati. Some people, this gets into another topic. Some people accumulate more psychic powers using other means um, through different rituals. Uh, I don't think I want to get into that, but for some people who are born that way, they are able to do that by connecting the chakra points of their body. And so to become clairvoyant and also to levitate. Actually, I have one person in the Bay Area in San Francisco, north of San Francisco. He is a Chinese American. After the book is published in China and got really popular over there, and he gave me a call. He just called me randomly. He said, Samuel, do you know that I could levitate when I was young? And I was very curious. I asked him how he did it. He said that when he was young, he followed the teachings of a Qigong master. So he practiced all the meditation and also like, there's a Chinese Qigong practice in which they connect the energies from the dantian, which is the stomach area, the stomach chakra area, to, I'm going to have to show my whole body, like through here, and then here to the top of the head, to here, the back, through the spinal area, to the bottom area, and then back to the stomach area. Mm-hmm. So they practice this, connecting the energies and making like a cycle, like a circle from top down. And he felt heat. And then, so this is the Qigong practice he tried to practice. And then after he connected all the chakra points, all the meridian points and chakra points, and then he fasted for like 3 days or so without eating, without drinking. The Qigong masters in China, they really didn't need to drink or eat anything. They can also use their will and also use their mind to survive in a very cold place, like in the Himalayas, because they can generate heat, or maybe they can make themselves not feel cold. So after 3 days, he began to levitate. He didn't know why, and he was able to levitate at will. And then after he became like uh, kind of a little bit materialistic, and after he came to the US, he was really working as a software engineer and doing. He lost this ability. If you also read the books written by Dr. Stephen Greer, there's one chapter in his book that talks about he was able to levitate when he was young, floating in the middle of the air and without knowing how he did it. So there are people in this world who can still levitate. If you check on YouTube, if you search the name Dan White, WHIT, a magician, and also search the keyword Nepal and levitation, you're going to find a video of him visiting Nepal, visiting a monk in Nepal, and like showing and documenting how the monk levitated in front of him. He himself, being a magician, couldn't explain how the monk did it. This is a documentary that was shown in this History Channel, I think, or Discovery Channel. I forgot which one it is. So there are still people who can do this kind of things, but it requires a lot of practice.
Have you developed any psychic abilities?
No, I am too busy promoting the messages in the book to meditate.
Oh
No,
man,
the
this has
answer
been
is no.
awesome.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. What are your hopes with this, right? Like where do you see yourself going? Like what do you want to happen with this book?
Well, I really hope that the people, not the super wealthy, but the people, working class people, to have this knowledge, to know that they can be empowered to look inside for answers, and also to unite and to form a collective consciousness and action, a strike in the future, and to make the world a better world. Because the power really lies in the people, not the elite, not the financiers, not the corporation executives. And I think it really, in order to change the world, it has to be uh, the mass, come from the mass.
Samuel, I can't thank you enough, buddy. How can people find you? How can they buy the book?
Well, people can find me on Facebook by searching my name, Samuel Chong, Chong, and they can find the book by searching on Amazon, Thiaoouba Prophecy, Thiaouba, Prophecy, and they can also find it in audio form on Audibles.
Awesome, buddy. Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Thank you.